You just make copies of,
So they should have matched
Just
it to
one
the other
particular
side of the
area.
river.
Yes.
Rather than
We're
having.
gonna call the meeting to order. Morning.
Good morning.
Jan's on the road, so I'm gonna cover. And I'm going to slightly reorient the agenda. We're going to put the Waldeboro pamphlet and booklet in the chairman's report section. And I think we will put the, how long do you think the TIF thing will take, Bill?
well, 2 hours. No.
Ah, you're killing me.
No, we need to spend some time on it. I have to leave at 9, but we can get the conversation going after the brochure discussion and then.
Okay. And anybody here from Julie, if she was planning to attend or?
Nothing, not
No.
that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Max, do you know? No.
Anything big coming up with the CTC?
I did have a quick statement to make
Okay.
when you're ready for it.
Well, what I'll do, trying to get some of the quick things out of the way so we
Sure,
can
absolutely,
focus.
yeah, no,
So we'll
makes
get that. Julie's not here. And, okay, we'll do that. How's that? All right, thanks. So, I don't know if everybody got a chance to read through the minutes that Max sent. Do we have a quorum, enough people who read through them to take a vote?
I just had one question about the minutes. Something was attributed to me, the accuracy of which I challenge.
Okay.
It had to do with the process for the TIF. And I think I probably mentioned something to the effect that the select board would have to be involved. If you're gonna get it on the warrant, the select board's
Oh,
gonna be
absolutely.
involved.
Yeah.
Period.
That's, yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, so that didn't come through in the minutes the way I think it was intended to. That's my.
Would you like to take another stab at that and then recirculate and we can vote on it for next month, or do we need them right this sec?
No, I can wait.
I can wait?
Not a
Okay.
big
Anybody
deal.
else have any?
By that caveat, I'm happy to,
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
just, you
So
know,
you just want the minutes to say that.
That we have to go through the select board in order to get the.
The process requires.
Yeah, the
get
process
it on the ballot,
requires.
because this is a public vote.
Oh, yeah,
Right, so the
absolutely, yeah.
process requires a presentation to the select board in order to get it on the warrant.
Warrant, yeah.
All right.
It'd be like an ordinance or.
Right.
Yep.
you know, anything like that.
Yep.
So that this process requires EDC going to select board to get this on the
Present.
warrant.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Select board to get this on the warrant.
Anybody have anything else that they'd like to add or modify or? So that's.
You'll find,
what
you'll find in the minutes where that,
Yeah.
Okay, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Yeah.
I'll approve the minutes.
So
As
Ted
amended.
moved, can I have a second?
I will second and then I'll abstain, but
Okay. All in favor? You can.
can I vote?
Yeah.
absolutely.
3,
I
4.
didn't know I was a member of the
Okay,
committee.
we need, okay, so we don't have a quorum to vote.
We don't?
No, so 5 of us have not read it.
Oh, gee.
Right,
I move we table the minutes until the next.
great.
There you go.
I second.
That's, we can't
Yeah,
vote on that either.
Okay, good, right.
Can't vote on anything.
Okay, no, we can vote on other things, people just didn't read the minutes. Okay, so, in lieu of chairman's report, which Jan said he had nothing to add, I will pass the baton here to Max and Marcia. I'll introduce you guys to Marcia. Marcia Drenzik is a graphic designer in Waldeboro who does a lot of work for nonprofits and for organizations in town. And she has been the person who has been talking to Max about design changes and so forth. So today, Max invited Marcia here so that we can talk to Marcia about the most recent design changes. And you managed to get it into a 3-fold instead of a 4-fold.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, it's, some of the copy and photos had to leave, and there was a really nice shot from Erica Moody. The bad news was it could not, she needed to have a photo credit if we were using that. That turns into a whole ball of wax because then everybody wants a photo credit and we just don't want to go. This is a tool for Max. It's a handshake. He's meeting businesses that are thinking about coming to Waldeboro. You know, you hand them a brochure after you've had a conversation so they have something to know the broad brush about the town. So I'd really like people, I know people have tweaked and thought about copy, and it can't be a video, it's not an advertisement. It's a sort of an overview of the town, what it has to offer, and it's a handshake. Come here, let's have a personal view of the town and see what location is right for your business. That's really the intent of this brochure, and that's why I volunteered to donate it. I felt it was something that Max needed a tool, and it just makes us a little bit more viable. There, you know, businesses are looking at other towns. If we don't have anything to hand them to take home, I don't think it reflects well on us. So a small threefold is inexpensive to print. It's not like Max is going to be handing out thousands of them. I think it's just a tool that he could have.
We respect your experience immensely. Thank you very much.
I'm happy to donate it. I want this town to put its best foot forward. There's a lot of great attributes about this town, and sometimes it's like hidden under a cabbage leaf, and it annoys me.
So do you want to
I'll
pass
just-
it around? and
Yeah,
show people?
I can, you know, this is basically where we are, and custom.
Inside and outside.
This is the front, how it works is it folds. I'm sure you guys, this is the front cover, this is the back cover, this is the inside fold. And when you're on the inside, it's a three spread. All these photos have been approved. I talked to Custom Cordage. They were happy to let me use the photo. There was no problem. They were incredibly complimentary about George as being in the business park there. I mean, we've got great stories. We've got good testimonials. We've got new businesses that have come here and said, you know, the planning department was really helpful. These are good stories. These are good stories.
Plus, we have Custom Cordage was recently purchased by a new person.
I
so
talked to the
that's-
new
yeah,
owner, and
that's cool.
he was fabulous. I mean, because he'd been away, and, you know,
Yep.
What's going to happen to the volume of the operation?
pardon me?
What's going to happen to the volume of the operation, Custom Cordage?
I didn't
think it's
quiz
just
him about
growing.
his business
Just
plan.
as-
He seemed, he
Continue
was
as it is.
very
Not talking about
enthusiastic.
Trying to outdo the outfit in Warren or anything like that.
They do different things.
Thank you.
And they're a very good company.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The
I
new
love the
Dave and the
visuals
old
you
Dave.
put together. With Max. The visuals are nice on that. It ties it
It's
together
friendly.
nicely.
I just want it to be friendly, accessible. If you cram too much copy in, nobody wants to read it. So we just need the broad overview, a few bullet points. It's a marketing brochure. It's very low-key. But I think it could be a good tool for Max. It would give him something that he doesn't have.
Right. I've been sitting here for months watching this thing evolve, and as you've already know, I did a threefold like that for my business back when this whole idea of graphics and Max started in the 90s, early 90s. And I sat here quietly because I thought I was out of step with this fourfold idea. I didn't like it because it doesn't really conform to what people are used to seeing. It was something very unique in terms of its layout, too much information, but it seemed to have a lot of momentum around the table, so I said nothing. But I'm here to say that today.
Well, when I was allowed to edit out copy, we could get back to the threefold because all of that information could not fit.
Marcia created the fourfold in an attempt to
say- I thought-
include all the copy we insisted on.
Right. Well, here's the other interesting thing about that. If you go to any events where people have these as handouts, they're always three.
Yeah, I mean, the
And I don't know if
fourfold,
you really want to be that unique in Waldeboro that we're a fourfold and they're narrower. And so-
well, it's one of those things that it either had to be a fourfold or you wouldn't be able to read the copy, so it
And
was a
would've-
compromise.
It would have been the same dimensions
Yeah.
I know.
Right, it wouldn't have been narrower, it would have been the same dimensions on a larger piece of paper.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyway.
Yeah, there's-
This will be less expensive to do.
Oh, yeah.
mass
Precisely.
production on it.
Oh, yeah, much less.
I like you're equating it to a handshake. That's a,
Because
Yeah,
that's what it does. It's a handshake.
That's a-
It
that's
can't
a
possibly
excellent way
tell
to put it.
the full story, but it gives you an entree.
When we have, so eventually when we have a redone website, the website can continue the story in different pages and build on the information, which can complement the beginning.
Well, and this PDF can go, whenever it's approved, it can go on the website now.
Right.
It can also go on the WBA website,
Right,
on the
absolutely.
page about thinking about a business and what, the WBA is always happy to
Go on the
promote, so.
websites of each of the businesses in town.
yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
if they want to do it.
Waldeboro Business
We
Park.
can hand it out
Yeah,
at trade shows.
okay.
Yeah, or they
Right.
can link it
Perfect.
to the town's
Right.
website or something.
Yeah, any of the
Whatever they
businesses that are affected, can certainly,
And we can just have it
Yeah.
out there.
So it'll be print and it'd be electronic and available
Right.
to all.
Yep.
Those racks that are in the, kind of the welcoming centers down at the border, is it a simple matter to just,
No, you have to join as a member. It's 200 and nonprofits is, what do we pay now? 275?
Yeah,
The
see-
280.
WBA is a
And
member,
then,
is it
yeah,
not?
the WBA
Would it
has,
not be able to,
we only have one
we
thing.
get one slot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to pay for every center individually that you have it on. And two, but the thing that they, some towns, I've seen it. There are towns that are members of the Maine Tourism Association. And there's an electronic, which we haven't actually signed up for. There's an electronic filing and connection, and they have electronic kiosk kinds of things that you can play with at the visitor centers. So you can get listed there, you can get your brochure in a rack. There's a variety of things. It might be something to think about,
We ought to get this on the agenda for the next meeting on Tuesday, maybe for the 2 meetings after that, Maine tourists.
Oh, Maine.
Yeah, for the town to become a member of Maine.
in the big scheme of things,
Yeah,
how could you go wrong?
It makes sense.
Well, especially now with all of the, with this summer was a big business summer in town for our new businesses. They were, Topsail Farm, for instance, was absolutely hit hard with customers. They never thought they would have such a
They
successful
market aggressively
first.
though, too. They
Right,
really
but
do.
they still didn't believe that it was going to
Yeah.
happen. And they are, I'm sure they're thrilled. East 40 Farm and Dairy did very well with their monthly chef dinners, as well as all of the production, their creamery, but their heirloom pigs and all these others. And the Odd Alewives' reputation for the farm brewery is spreading far and wide, and people are truly impressed and talking about it in places when I go out of town. It's kind of very interesting. Long Winter Soap keeps offering and creating new types of soaps, and those things are picking up speed. It's very interesting. And the art walks, doubled in locations. It's kind of been interesting to see. It's really
In
something.
North Waldeboro, we have a lot of real estate action,
Cool.
meaning old homes that are being completely
Wow.
renovated. In addition, real estate agents that are taking new out-of-state people that want to live in a rural farming environment around, and there are people buying.
Wow.
Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there seems to be some vitality in the air, definitely.
Is it the Maine Tourism Bureau?
No, Maine Tourism Association.
Association.
I've heard poor comments occasionally on the school system, which I've watched an entire lifetime. In my opinion, the school system does very well when the parents are involved. When the parents are involved, the school does great. When the parents are not involved, nobody does well. And I think that's the dividing line between success and failure in the local school system, which occasionally doesn't always get praised.
I think this, I don't know what you guys think about this, but to me, this is much easier to read with taking some of the content and the photos out. And I think you're right, it hits the high points.
The three photos on the middle page are excellent.
Yeah.
And of course, the solar array, but
Yeah.
there's a couple of those two action photos there to grab you
Yeah.
on the side.
Yeah, and of course, I think the testimonials are very strong.
Yeah.
And I'm a real believer in testimonial.
Yeah.
I flog that constantly with people. Testimonials are,
Connects it.
it's not about what you say about yourself, it's what others say about you that's really important.
And the river's front and center, that's where.
Yeah, yeah. We have so many compelling stories, levels of stories in our town. We have so many. I mean, the historical one is very powerful. The river, the clamors, that economy, the maritime economy, is very powerful. The new businesses and that it support an environment for small business is again very powerful. The recreational aspects of the town, the artistic aspects, the deep roots of art. I mean, it is quite an interesting town, I think. I mean, when I look, it's just, and we have a very engaged community, I would say. Lots of engagement, lots of nonprofit activity on all levels. I mean, this really is, the Waldo Theater is another big success story that they are pushing forward. So it's compelling.
Is there a motion to be made with respect to this
Up
latest?
to you guys.
I like it. If there's a motion to be made to proceed and stop almost proceeding, I make that motion.
The motion should be to accept and print and distribute, if that's the will of the committee.
Okay, anybody
What
want
he
to?
said.
Would anybody like to make that motion?
I did.
I seconded it.
Accept and print and
Distribute.
distribute? Okay, any discussion?
I have a question.
Yep.
How many do you want to print?
That's actually a good question. The town was going
We've
to,
got money in the budget for it, don't
we have money in the
Selectmen have
budget.
to
I'll get
be engaged.
pricing from Lincoln County Printing.
Yeah.
There you
They're
go.
always, this is right up their alley.
Yeah.
They'll be the most competitive.
There will be.
So shall I say 2,500, 1,000, 2,500?
Can we get some prices?
Yeah, I can do multiple pricing to see. Max,
Well, I can go to the Danvers County Printing and check from there, like.
She's got a relationship with them. She can give them all
I'll call
the.
Alan, I'll email you the
You're
pricing
insisting,
and
go
you're
ahead.
good to go.
The reason why too is Marcia knows all the technology to talk about the color
Excellent.
arrays and
Yeah.
the.
Yeah,
and
It's
the
e-
fonts.
it's
she'll look
easy
at the proof and get it straight.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to do with him, so it's no problem.
Is almost everything digital now?
Yeah, my file is digital, it's set up digitally. This is just printed out on my little inkjet at home.
But and the weight of the paper?
Well, this
is heavy.
is photo weight, because for some reason, my printer was acting up and it was spitting, I was like, whatever, just print.
I love technology. But
So it will not
Later.
be, it will probably be front and back about this weight, which is roughly about
Ticket.
80 pounds.
yeah,
It's a nice feel.
yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want to pay for something that's so heavy. But the flip side is you don't want anything that's on like 70-pound text, which is
Yeah.
going to be too flimsy. So,
It's going to take Max along as a student.
Alan and I are we only communicate via email. I will write him the specs, I
Okay,
email him,
okay.
and a day later I get costs back.
So,
I don't drive
Would you
anywhere
like a
hardly.
price for 1,000 and
2,000.
2,000?
Yeah.
We'll get a price for both, and so why don't we say we,
And I'll email you, Jen, and you'll
well,
just,
at max.
oh, to Max,
Yeah,
okay, email costs to Max.
And then he can
Do the
put it,
selectmen have to be involved?
I don't know, we have our own line. I don't know.
I mean,
I didn't hear what,
Will the selectmen need to approve the expenditure?
just Julie.
Because we have a line item.
Okay.
Yeah.
at the most, I can put it in my planner summary to the select board
Yeah.
saying that
Yeah,
this is
okay.
done.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing to tell
So I'd like
everybody.
to amend the motion
Please.
to, and what was the word you guys used? Because my brain is.
You
Well,
used-
to accept, to
Ex-
approve, accept, and distribute.
So we're going to approve and accept.
Yeah, and distribute.
And distribute, and then part of that process is
The
then
pricing.
the next process. Okay, we don't have to amend. Okay. Discussion over? Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Did you vote?
No,
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Max, we had
I love it, don't get that the wrong way.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Five.
5, and 1 abstention. And the next step is Marcia will get us some prices, and then we can
Get them printed.
deal with that.
So then where we actually put them after the,
Yeah, we can still talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly the business association.
And I'll
On the
provide
website.
PDFs
Sorry?
On the website should be
yeah.
easy.
to Max for the
Yep.
website, you know.
Yeah, and I'll
perfect.
redistribute it to the EDC members because
Yeah.
And through the,
Julie, Jan, Seth,
Yeah.
anyone who wasn't here.
and through the WBA, we'll put it on our website, and also we'll let our members know that it's
Right.
available for their websites, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
anybody that wants to post it and is
Yay.
willing to help with the, spreading the news, we're
The other
there.
chambers to get it out.
Okay.
All right,
John,
Yes.
and you can stay if you want, or you can leave.
all right, well, I probably will leave, let you
Okay.
guys be in
Thanks
peace.
for
Should you-
coming.
No, thank you, I'm glad to see this moving forward. I just wanted to see, what do I need to do to make this happen?
It's only taken 2
Thank you.
years.
Well, no, thank all of you for your time, I appreciate
It
it.
was worth the wait on that.
All right, bye.
All right.
That's great.
So, John, you are
Okay,
up.
so what I have very little to add, Julie's not here, so I can't say for sure that we haven't heard from Spectrum's engineering study on Chapel Road. Do you know, Bob, if they have responded to this?
The last thing I saw was an email from Ruben asking him to do something.
Right, so I hadn't even gotten a copy of that, by the way, so there's some dysfunction here in our committee.
Okay,
So if you could correct that, I'd appreciate it.
yep.
The other interesting thing that's going on is that I'm being contacted by Chapel Road people for the first time
Good,
on their own.
yep.
And they're contacting me because they have either listened into my short messages to the select board and the voting on getting them connected,
Yep.
or somehow or other they're hearing, but there's some very active people that want to get involved in trying to help make this happen.
Good for them.
And this
That's
is to
great.
have Spectrum live up to the intent of their franchise agreement, which is to cover all roads in Waldeboro that have 9 homes per mile or more. And we've been trying for 2 years to deal with them without any successes. And it's almost, I don't even want to go into the reaction I have to that, except that it's
Frustrating,
more than frustrating.
yeah.
And so hopefully we will then get over this point by the end of this month with some kind of an answer, or then we'll be back to what do we do now?
My impression is they're gonna do it. It's just a matter of when.
Right, they have up to 9 months by
Right.
the statement on
Hopefully
that.
it'd be less time than that.
Right, but there are people that are moving into that area that have school-aged children. And the school district we have has given all the teachers green light to using the internet for research for homework,
wow.
and has for the last couple of years, by the way. And I say, well, you people that have this issue should come and speak at these meetings. I
Yeah.
have a hard time getting people to show up, and I can't get anyone from the school board to show up to help
Yeah.
promote this. So we've got to do more of a grassroots basis. Please come. So I have some promises.
Question. I recall reading somewhere in some of this correspondence that Spectrum, where's the closest nexus for Spectrum to connect to Chapel Road?
There's 2
Is it at the
locations,
Manktown Road end, or is it at the other end?
both ends.
It is both ends.
Well, be careful. The north end, they have to go about a half a mile from Filer's Corner and Kastner, that intersection.
Right, but what about 235?
235 is Manktown Road,
Right.
abutting Chapel.
Yeah, but where's their closest nexus there?
It's right there. What do you mean by nexus?
Well, where they can connect up to what they already, to an
there's cable
infrastructure they
there.
already have.
There's cable there. Okay.
Their cable,
Yes,
okay.
yes, there's cable there. Now, they may have to.
So they don't
up-
have to do any huge
No, that's correct.
looping around.
If, the worst-case scenario for them is if they really wanted to do it right, they could overlay fiber to that point and have one of those point of presence boxes that converts it to
Yeah.
cable and then go up Chapel Road. And that's all they need to do.
Do they
And-
own fiber in Waldoboro?
Excuse me?
Does Spectrum own fiber?
Yes, they have it overlaced on their regular coax in many areas to bring higher bandwidth into
Thank you very
high
much for
demand
that.
areas.
Thank you for that explanation.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah. So that's the status of that, and that's the last remaining area that qualifies under the current franchise agreement. The rest are all 4 or 5 small pockets. So when this road is connected up, there'll be under 20 residents in this town that don't have access to cable.
That's all.
That's it.
Wow.
That would be
Not
so
bad.
good.
They are also 20 that are very close to where cable already is.
How many of those 20 homes would have school children?
Probably half.
Balderdash.
Right. So there is an issue here that has to continue with Spectrum.
Does the brochure we just forwarded talk about our internet?
Yes, it does.
Should. High-speed fiber.
It says fiber, it's aimed at business, so it says fiber for
Yeah.
business.
Only 9 people without it.
Any other questions for John? Next steps, oh, you guys are already got something in the works.
Right, so Julian
waiting.
is the focal point, and so I wasn't aware that Ruben was still actively working on this, by the way, until
Oh,
just
yeah.
now.
Good,
Oh, yeah.
good.
He's got a good rapport
With who?
with their counterpoint.
Shelley Witchin?
Shelley. No, not Shelley, the other one. Anyway, he has a good rapport with them, Sean. We need to build on that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, Julie's not here, Seth's not here, so we're gonna skip right to TIF.
Tiff, all right.
Yeah.
I just want to make a quick announcement on the SBA. There's an SBA workshop on business loans that's going to be offered in Rockland. I think it's October 17th. Max, they just came out with the brochure. Max will get it on Monday, and we'll distribute it for people that didn't have a chance to go to the one that was sponsored here earlier. So that it's free, so they can, come and take advantage of that. It's just a presentation of, mostly for smaller businesses, what's available for loan programs, things like that. So we just want to make sure that that gets out here to people or businesses that might be interested. This is a portion of, we're going to send out the complete version 2 to everyone after this meeting. But for today's meeting, we wanted to concentrate on basically looking at the work plan. And for the next meeting, to take a look at, I'm going to ask Max to explain this in a minute. He kind of color-coded the properties, and we'll have a chance, we'll discuss those at the next meeting. And the method of our madness is twofold. One is that we have a limitation on the physical acreage that we can put in the district. It's maxed out. Any one district can be no more than 2% of the total land area. So we're pretty close to that limit, or slightly above. So we have to make some adjustments in the list that we have. But before we do that, I thought it would be worthwhile to take a better look and discuss our work plan, because the work plan is basically the projects we want to do, and they can be specific or generic. And that way, that may inform us to what, needs to be in the physical area or not. It's just another way of looking at the areas or that we want to include. If, for instance, we say, a sewer line should go to this area, and we don't have any properties there, but there's something that's worthy of being put in, then we should start, that will inform kind of our decision. Because the TIF, remember, does 2 things. It identifies properties that we're going to get future expansion income from, to be putting into that pot to do work projects. And those work projects is something we want to talk about now, because we have to pre-identify those, in the TIF plan. So is that acceptable at this point?
Can I just ask a question? I should have asked this before. I've just noticed some of the properties I know are on the river.
Yeah. Well, that's something we have to, and yeah, there's a reason, yeah.
It's a
there's-
real
Yeah.
hot button issue.
Yeah, this is, yeah, we have to go through, that's where the work plan discussion
Okay.
comes into play and how we
Right.
frame that.
I guess the question I'm asking indirectly is, can you set up a TIF on a riverfront property but limit what you can do on that property so that it doesn't fall into the mainstream necessarily of work projects that we're looking at, but could be used?
Well, there's two ways of looking at this, is the TIF, identifies work project. In our ordinances or whatever, we would, we could
Carve it
capture.
out.
Yeah, that's something that would be separate.
Okay.
But.
But it does need to complement the ordinance, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This whole thing.
Well, the ordinance, it takes precedence
It would.
on how things are done unless you create an overlay,
Yeah.
which we did out at George's place. Right?
Yeah, the biggest thing in the ordinance is we have to make a connection. When we put a property in the TIF, because it's the economic focus, it's got to be in a zone that allows commercial activity.
Right.
So that's first, and then the second would be, Bob, your point is how and what we want to happen in that particular area. And that's what we could designate on that. And also the work plan, and that's why this discussion's important, is what kind of projects we want to do.
Yep,
Yep.
okay.
So if the focus is on fishing and aquaculture, maybe that's acceptable versus.
Right. But not necessarily raising cows or putting
Right,
in
right,
manure
absolutely,
piles.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you could go to your handout that starts with development program here, and.
That's the
Yeah, that would be like the,
second piece of
Second,
paper
yeah.
on the back.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm just going to go through these real fast. There's three categories,
take
and then we
notes.
could break them out and discuss them. And we could juggle where they are on these. The first category is cost of improvements made within the district, and that refers to the geographic location that we've identified, those properties that we've identified. The second category is cost of improvements made outside but related to the district. This is one, for example, I put the sewer that would go to the industrial park, because it's going to go along an area, whether on Depot Street or 32, wherever, to serve the district, but the physical improvement is going to be in an area that's not identified necessarily in the TIF district. And then the last is community-wide municipal investments. This is a category that allows us to do economic development throughout the town, including the geographic district, but even outside it, as long as it meets the parameters of the TIF legislation in terms of that it has to be economic development. So we have a lot of latitude to include areas. And by example, there's a couple of things. I put trails in here. The legislation specifically allows trails because of a tourist connection, things like that. There's another generic one in here that says any economic activity community-wide where the TIF would be used to match a grant. So let's say we got a grant to do something, build an aquaculture project or something like that. And it's not in the TIF district, but it's an economic development, then this allows that to go forward on that. It also, I put a couple things in there. This is kind of our wish list, because we have a 30-year window, so we shouldn't be bashful or bold, maybe is another way of putting projects in. And we could be very specific, like we're specific about the sewer expansion to the industrial park, but there's some here that are kind of generic, like the trail, we kind of broadly define it. I put something in here about creation of a new business park, but there's no real area attached to it yet. Put something in here about new roads, about sewer, about water, but there's no real physical location yet to it, So if you want to just start on the table one, cost of improvements made within the district, and kind of briefly go through these. And again, what we're looking for is, did we capture what wanted, I used the discussion from the comp plan and also from this committee to kind of push these together. There's also high-speed fiber in here, but, and we can just go through. The prices are gobbledygook at this point. They're just something to get in there, and we're going to have to refine them much more. The first one is just TIF revenues for public water service around Route 1 corridor, pump facilities, easements, components, engineering.
You don't indicate a distance, is that, I mean, we know what it is, it's defined by the boundary of the town.
Well,
But for purposes of planning, does one want to include it?
Yes, well, that's where the TIF, the physical area, we talked right now of those list of properties that we have. We have two generic kind of physical locators. One is the industrial park and area around it, and the second one is Route 1 corridor and village. And then there's another one that's a possibility, and that would be commercial water-dependent access points. that
But you've
we can-
indicated an amount there, Bill, $1.2 million. There's $1.2 million on that
Oh.
estimated cost, I mean.
That's just a placeholder.
Yeah.
No rhyme or reason to
I
that.
could say
okay.
XXXXX.
Yeah, that's,
Thought you might have had an amount per mile or per foot that you
we're gonna have to,
jacked into that.
yeah, that's a next step. When we, if we like that idea, we'll have to say, well, this is a projected area that it might go, and we can work up a number. Those numbers are, that can change. We're not held to those numbers.
And just for, sorry if I missed this and for my own understanding, when we talk about those numbers and we actually do submit something more finite, because it's a 30-year plan, are we gonna have to continuously update those with actual costs?
No, when we do a project, we have to define the cost. But here's something we have to be careful, we want to make a connection with, is if we're going to do a 30-year projection of the income that we'll potentially get from this, and it's, it's a projection. But we have to make sure that if we're going to project $5 million, we can't just put projects in here for $2 million.
Right.
There has to be, so we have to make that we have to show that we're going to have a place to spend this, and that's where we make the connection.
Do we have a clear idea as to the location of ledge in Waldoboro and how it influences the laying of cable?
Not really. I mean, we generally have some idea, and that's where we're going to use what we know at this point. But that's why we always put engineering in here as a factor, because if you want to go on a project, because we want the TIF fund to pay for the engineering, and typically for projects, there's the preliminary engineering, then the design, and the preliminary you want
Define
to for
the obstacles.
Yeah.
Because you might want to, that may be a no or no-go for the project, or maybe we look for a different route too. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The next one is TIF revenues applied for high-speed fiber, serve Route 1 corridor in the business park. We can expand that, contract that, and that, or we could say, and that one we'd probably want to, well, this category is made within the district. So we should probably put a placeholder project in the community-wide one also for fiber on that there.
I would expect that to be done on a wider basis than just the town, though, if they're big major fiber.
Yep.
Next step. In fact, there's a document I probably should, if anyone wants to understand the thinking at the state level now, there's a great Down East economic development essay, and it's recently been written by someone that did a great job. It's 2 pages long. It lays out the whole plan for putting fiber throughout the state.
We can-
I'll send you a copy.
We can
We can add that into the community-wide
the
one
one that's
also.
number 3.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Community-wide, we can put more in there.
And there's nothing wrong with that,
No.
to doing it that way.
So you're going to include that under the discussion of fiber,
Yeah.
the second box on the.
So there'll be 2 work projects, one for within and then one community-wide.
Good.
And then cost to fund the capital improvements for the construction of new roads, et cetera. This will include engineering, easement, producing. This was put in the physical area, and this is another one that we could put in for the community-wide too. We had spoken about roads at a couple of times in the comp plan, So this is kind of like a placeholder on that.
Is this an indication of priority or just?
No, we would set the priority. No, we don't have to prioritize them. That's up to us to do. The work plan just puts it in there. And then the next one there is cost of fundings for the development of new and/or commercial development parks to accommodate jobs, et cetera, et cetera.
Are any of these impacted by the governor-level politics?
No, not the work plan. No, they're pretty straight shooters. They look to make sure that your TIF plan conforms to the statute.
Okay.
And they're looking, and there's a lot of form.
So the politics of the next interval aren't really an issue?
No, unless they change the statute, but no, when
Not
you
likely.
submit a plan,
Okay.
they're just looking to make sure. They're very picky on how the form of the plan is, so it's some, the document itself is gonna feel kind of clumsy, but that's what they want, so we're gonna stuck with that. But no, as long as it meets this, that's why you'll see a statute site there.
Right,
On
I
that
noticed that.
refers to the project is allowed, is specifically kind of discussed or referred to in statute.
One question, I just, peeling back to the days of the comp plan. I see funding of capital improvements for roads, which is for infrastructure. I see capital improvements for industrial and commercial. I seem to remember there was some discussion around a river walk, which would be more
That's on
towards
trails.
nature.
Yeah,
That's
that's
on
in
the
the,
trails.
That
in
could be
the,
more.
It's on the fourth, it's
that's
on
in the
the,
third
turn the page.
category for community-wide.
But that was community-wide, but cost of improvement made within the district if we were looking at along the river. Could it be in both or no?
It could be in both.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
And that's something like we did for the fiber, we could include it in there too. Riverwalk. We can add the river, this is where we can add some specificity. Riverwalk and related trail connections. So we can add that in here. Thank you, that's what we're looking for. And then the other one outside of the district, the only one I have at this point is the sewer. Some of the placement of these is sometimes a matter of art, because, but a lot of times this one outside the district, it doesn't have anything in when you submit a TIF plan, because it could come under the community-wide one, but so as long as it's in there, we're fine on that. Then the last one, community-wide investments. I put some funding in here that would take some of the TIF funds and use it for annual, like, economic expenses, so that people can see that we're, things that we would typically fund out of the general fund, we're using the TIF revenues for, because there's an economic connection on that. That's something we can discuss, but I just.
I don't like that.
All right.
And I'm going to tell you why. I don't want the town to get used to not paying it.
Right. Yeah, Julie, it goes both ways. Sometimes a lot of towns take that approach, and most do.
No, I think that's the wrong approach to take. I think our budget has to represent what the budget actually costs to run the town.
Yeah.
Because then, if it, for some reason, it has to go back in, it's going to start a whole new firestorm. I would just keep it where it is.
Well, keep in mind, there still would be a line item in the budget. The only difference would be is where the pot of money comes from.
Yeah, it just gets
You
weighted.
just-
I think what we should pay
Yeah,
the full freight.
all right.
That's just in my opinion, and that could change in the future when another person, in 13 years.
13 years.
Some time, yeah.
Other towns are split on this. Some do it this way, and sometimes they put it in like this, only because there's pressure to show that some of the TIF money is going.
I know that there's
That's the only
pressure.
reason.
I don't even
Yeah.
want to get into that.
Yeah.
I want it to be, this is what it
Yeah.
is. Because otherwise people think, especially here, it's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody saying it's got to be totally transparent. I want to know that's what the cost is.
Is there perhaps a way to use some of this for some special projects within our planning and development?
I would keep it all in capital, personally.
Capital
No
infrastructure.
operating expenses should be covered by the TIF.
That's what the whole thing is about.
Yeah, I wouldn't go there. I just think it opens up a can of worms that we don't need to open.
Is there a way, it's probably gonna vacillate anyway, depending on valuations and property and so forth. But is there a way of including, after we create this concept, in the budget document, just an addendum, just kind of keeping track of what we think our TIF availability is?
We're
so
gonna have to
people follow
report it
that.
annually to the state, and in our,
Okay.
we're gonna have a fund, so, you know, the tax value, we have a property in George's Park. The tax money that you're presently paying annually is still gonna get paid, and it's gonna go into the general fund. If you build something new, that, the portion of that new development, that value, is gonna go now into the TIF fund. And so it's.
But it's a separate
Separate
identifiable
fund,
fund. Yeah.
And if we want to take money out of it for a project that's in the work plan, got to go through the same budgetary process as anything else. So,
Basically, what it does is it gives us a little extra income.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, so we'll take out the first two there on that.
Do you want to take them out completely, these first two? What are
Julie has
events?
an excellent point.
What are events?
I don't mind. I would stay away from operating, I really would. I just, that's,
What are events, though? I'm just curious.
Would it be like Waldo fundraiser or no?
Economic development events, what's that?
Oh, that could be a workshop, that could be something, it's just, that was undefined. I just put that in there as a example, as a placeholder on that there.
Julie, I think is.
Take it out, it's fine. I think you
no,
make an
I see
excellent point.
but I like the event part. I just don't like the planning and development department
Yeah.
part.
If we do events, I think we should, we can leave it like that, but that gets a little loosey-goosey. It'd be better if we kind of, you know, flesh that out a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, on that. So we'll take that. Like the third one down is cost of service by skilled development training or retained. That's kind of a generic like workforce training. You may or may not avail to that, but let's say we have somebody come in and they need to train people, we would have funds to match to, you know, it's just we may or may not.
If we end up growing like more than we think and we need, and we have to get people up to speed really quick, and that'd be nice.
This might affect the clamors.
Or if there is
You
like an
know.
aquaculture partnership or a
Yeah.
partnership with more partnership with high schools or the community
Yeah.
college or
Could be
something.
that,
Exactly,
yeah.
right.
I mean, who knows what the warming water and whatever is gonna affect and how that may have to change what they do.
We're talking 30 years out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it might be worthwhile to do one.
I like that one,
Yeah. The cost
but that one
of-
doesn't have a cost with it.
Well, that was,
Well,
no,
yeah,
this is, remember, just playing. You
Yeah.
said these are placeholders.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, these aren't real
This
costs.
has to get looked at. Cost
Yeah.
of associated with development or maintenance of new or existing recreational trails. This is one that the statute allows, but it allows us to, because the plan says we're going to develop a master trail system, link it to others, so it's an economic tourism boom, so we can put some cost in there. The next one is just this is a great one to have. It's just providing TIF funds to match federal loans, grants, et cetera, for any economic project. Like we get an EDA grant,
Yeah.
we
Gotta
can
come
use
up
the
with
TIF
it.
fund to do that. Cost of the last one, cost of applied to areas for marine water dependent commercial activities for such things as aquaculture, fishing, ship, boat building, repair. Another agreement, activities include site engineering, land purchase, and development. This is to include using municipal-owned parcels if feasible. On that. So this would connect to, you know, Pine Street, Dutch Neck, any other municipal property in the future that's along the water, could be used, and it would also affect other parcels that we would identify in the future. Who knows where we're going to go with aquaculture or the need for water-dependent locations. So this is kind of a way to make sure that there's funding in there. This is a big part of Waldoboro. We can flesh this out more, too, on that there. And there's also the idea of creating, Julie, I don't think this came from the discussion you had with Max about making sure that, like Dutch Neck or Pine Street are included, is that we'd had 2 categories.
Right.
And then the third would be a commercial water dependent site. So
Gotcha.
that way we can
Good.
take parcels that are all over. Because when we do the geographic area for the TIF, we have to, because we're going to be all over, we have to kind of show, we've linked it somehow.
Okay,
There's
good.
a logic to it.
As long as I know.
So I guess the question I would have for the committee is, what do we need to add? What do we need to expand? We're already going to do fiber in 2 places. We're going to add the trails in 2 places. We don't have, this is something we need to flesh out more, but this is a start for everyone to think about.
In my opinion, the game needs to be left absolutely open-ended, because we're going to be blindsided and have situations we didn't anticipate. We've got to just make sure it's open-ended.
Yeah, the art is to create the work plan with enough specificity to know what you want to do, but general enough to, because who knows? 10 years from now, somebody might have this great idea, and we want to have an opening in our work plan to say, yeah,
Precisely.
we're covered.
Yep.
Instead of having to amend the TIF, which we could always do. I'm sorry, John.
In covering industrial park areas, one of my concerns is that fiber could be given the priority as a technology, fiber optic cable, as opposed to another expansion of cable by Spectrum to cover an industrial.
Right.
That's a mistake.
All wireless.
Or wireless. It has to be fiber to these industrial park areas.
That's a decision that I think we make. We don't need the work plan to make that. That's something that happens after the fact, as a project gets proposed,
Right.
to see what's on the table, see what's available on that. We don't have to add that specificity.
You don't need to go to that layer.
No, and I would recommend against it, because like I say, 10 years from now, if we're locked into just one approach, there might be something new, want it generic enough. I think we should use the word fiber, or high-speed fiber. That's
Is there
that's
a
all I
better
had.
way to call it? Something else?
Speed internet.
Leading technology?
Yeah.
State of the
Well,
art.
you could
State
argue
of the
all
art.
day with Spectrum about what they think.
Right, but I mean, they might not even be here in 10 years.
In my opinion, where the whole universe is locked into periodic table, and the physical aspects of utilizing the periodic table are inescapable. We've got to conform to common physics.
Well, there's nothing
knowledge.
on the horizon for anything other than fiber optic cable for
Thank you.
down the road.
Well, I'm just saying, if
20
it's,
years ago, we were
but-
using it in Silicon Valley, and it took.
no, I know.
long.
I'm just saying, like, if 30 years from now,
Right. No, I agree.
No,
There could be
we don't
something
want to
better.
lock
there could be
ourselves.
something better. You never know.
We can write
Elon
that.
Musk could work on it.
A satellite right overhead with infinite bandwidth, right?
You never
That's
know.
a good point, because sometimes projects come up. I've had to work with towns to amend their TIF because the language was too narrow.
Yeah.
So let's make it,
I'm just
We
saying,
need to
like,
work on
maybe, that was my only concern, is there might be,
John,
I
you're
don't,
going to have to help me with some language on that, all right?
Yeah, I can tell, because I'm using my physics background, understanding light transmission versus other means.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just need to, just don't want to lock in a technology, but
Right.
I want it broad enough so that we know,
like, for example, fiber.
yeah.
But just so that we're not totally,
It's
Yeah, we can find it.
optical fiber, which implies light directly,
Yeah.
so that's what it is, right?
may, you never know.
All right.
My truck would let me run into a tree.
Anything else we need at this point to move? I would like everyone to look at this and edit this, add something to it if we want to switch things around like we were on the categories, or take a look at the language I used, if we need to change something. I want to make sure when we could describe like a SUR expansion, that we make sure we have all the components, the site review, the engineering, the construction,
Right.
we want to make sure we don't miss anything, because that gets towns into trouble too when you don't.
Are we competing for this opportunity, or?
No,
Just,
we're competing only, in a sense, we're only competing with ourselves in as much as that we have to make sure we meet the statutory limitations, but no. There's not like an unlimited amount of funds that are out there or something like that. So I'll leave homework.
All right, what's the homework?
And then in the meantime, we're going to distribute the full version too for everyone. It includes these pages, but it has other placeholder things for the TIF document.
How would you like changes or comments to be submitted back to you just during the next meeting, or would you like?
Oh, if you can do them beforehand, yeah, because that way
Okay.
we'll print them up and
Okay.
that.
I can email them back.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And we'll put, for the next one, I will put the changes that we made in for this one, and then we'll have Max spend more time kind of going through the physical locations. But again, the method to our madness was if we come to terms with the work projects, then they'll help inform physically what we want into the thing.
Thanks, Bill.
I have to leave at 9, so I'm going to leave you with.
All right.
Julie's in charge.
Did you have any thing to,
The only thing I had, the big thing was we got one response to our RFP for LED lighting, which shocked me that there was only one.
Oh, my.
Really, just one? I'm
I
surprised.
think I don't know, I mean, I sent it out to everyone that had put in RFPs for others.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to
There's
do
a lot of
it.
projects going on, maybe.
did it become such a good document that it put a lot of work on the people and their?
I don't
doing the easy
know.
ones first?
My concern is that since we were so in-depth with Real Term the first time, and if they research anything about our town, they probably saw that and thought it was a slam dunk.
Oh, no.
We might want to put it out again.
Question I have, was the person that came and presented for the company, was he the one that responded for that company?
Yes.
Oh, that's the only response.
Right, it was the same company, so I'm wondering if they thought it was a stacked deck and it was just for fun. So it might be worth putting it out again.
Yeah. Was their price reasonable, or you don't want to say it?
I'm trying to,
Yeah.
but I think we might want to think about that. I mean, I like competition. I mean, I was kind of hoping to get kind of a recommendation from you guys today if you thought it was worth putting it out again.
If putting it out again communicates that it really is still an open project, then I would put it out again.
Yeah.
I think if someone has got plenty going on, and we were hearing about the economy and the activity lately, and we give them a lot of work to do that they don't think is gonna create.
I'm going to give it to you again to look at.
Yeah. let me take a quick-
Take a quick look at it, and then so are you guys in agreement? Maybe we should just put
Being
it out again?
very,
It was
very
all
careful
ours.
how you explain why they're getting a second application, I think.
We have a generic thing that we have a right to.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a right to do that.
I'm aware of that. I'm just thinking, wondering why you didn't get more response, trying to generate a little more reception.
Yeah, we'll be careful with that.
Yeah.
Bill will work with me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you know, towns always say, you know, in the interest of greater competition, transparent, yeah.
Getting a better job done.
Yeah. Hey, maybe this outfit is the best, oh no. you know.
They may be, but I just want to make sure.
Sounds good.
anything else? Any other topics? Because we've hit our, unless you have an update of anything else that was on other people's lists. Other than
I'd
that.
like to ask Julie, have you heard from, this morning I covered a little bit about CTC and broadband for Chapel.
Max, I'll talk.
What is the latest you've heard on that? Anything?
Oh, I did hear something this week. What it is, after this week, it's been a long week. Let me look on my handy dandy.
Yep.
Email here. Gmail. Nope. We did hear something. I just don't remember what it was. What's her name?
You're talking about
Melinda.
Melinda Kinney.
Right. Poor.
What, that's her prior
Right.
last name. She's changed to Kinney. And she's under a charter.com kind of a.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Their engineers are out looking at Chapel.
right.
That is what the latest was this week.
Okay, have you heard directly from anyone on Chapel, by the way?
I have heard from no one on Chapel.
Because they're calling me, and I'm
Nope.
encouraging them to.
No one has called, no one has called us.
All right. All right, there's some real energy over there.
Well, that's good, but I have not had any contact with them. Nobody's left a message or emailed or
Right,
called.
there's big energy, then I said that, well, we gotta get you people more engaged. I have somebody that's gonna help if we have to go back around to get commitments.
Yeah, they're probably going to have to do that, I would say.
Well, anyway, there is a group over there that really is dying to get the cable in there.
Good. That's good, because
And
then,
it is someone that you would be happy with, I might add.
I don't care who it is, as long as we just get it done. We need
Yeah.
to get it done,
Right.
for sure. It's all good, all
Yep.
good stuff.
Good. Anything else?
No?
I was
Yeah.
gonna ask.
The guys?
They all
I
left.
didn't know if it was
They're right there.
appropriate for me to raise it, but I guess Ted, you're gonna have to back me up if anyone jumps me. So during our last planning board meeting, I just make a note that there was apparently a project that the EDC was working on, some sort of insert to, I want to say to the brochure, some sort of guidelines, welcome to Waldoboro.
The brochure.
Not the brochure itself, but there was like a paper document.
I don't know if that's confusion. There was some discussion, but I don't think there was ever any action on that. And the next project that we are required to do from the comp plan, which has been actually since 1998, is to create a document for businesses on how to do business in Waldoboro, how to interact with all of the functions and offices and
Right.
boards that are
I
required.
think this is more of a homeowner's, and thankfully Max is back, so he can actually tell you what this
What are you
document
talking
is.
about, an insert?
There was some, I was just trying to, probably speaking out of turn, there was some sort of document that the planning board just commented.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
that.
can you
Yeah.
please explain what that is?
So, along with the brochure, the EDC wanted to have this sort of booklet type thing to help
It's a booklet, not an insert, right?
to sort of
How to do business. in
how to
London?
do business.
That's a booklet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It looks like a little sheet.
More or less.
It's a draft.
Okay.
So do you have a draft for the EDC? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I didn't want to bring it out until the brochure was done, which
Yep,
I
almost,
guess-
right? Right,
Yeah.
next step.
I don't even know. I think when the planning board, it was only brought to the planning board because we were talking about shoreline ordinances and how the new resident might not know what to do and all that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so I think I then just brought this up, and then they commandeered it despite the powerful resistance from Ted and Tara here.
Yeah, this was not our idea, but we also wanted to not duplicate efforts and let you know that we were happy to offer technical assistance
Oh,
because
yeah.
of the ordinance piece of it. So
Right.
raising that here with
Right.
you fine people.
It'll be our next project, one of our next projects will be, because it has been on the list since 1998 and not been acted on. And that was originally, over a year ago, the charge came from the comp plan to the EDC to please work on how to do business in Waldoboro. And instead, we worked on a brochure marketing Waldoboro. So this is.
Which is
this
done,
Yeah, right. So this is something that we have to start work on, but we haven't even begun. What happened at the time was we brought in a whole bunch of samples from other towns on what they have created on how to do business in their towns, how to manage your way through, what's required, what ordinances you have to look at, who you have to talk to, all that kind of stuff for businesses. That would be specifically for businesses. So that is on the list for our future work.
There's a committee that's, I've been away, I apologize. The committee to revisit the land use ordinance,
Nobody's been interviewed yet.
okay. But as a preamble to the land use ordinance, that would be a wonderful place to help someone navigate the system.
Well, I think that was the idea, but I think we don't want to get it too complicated. Basically, we want to help businesses know who they need to speak to in town and what they need
I
to. Yeah.
only brought it up from the standpoint
Yeah.
that it should be integrated or consistent with.
Of course.
They should say the same thing, or maybe.
It's not going to say anything specific. It's going to say, you need to look at this section of the ordinance, you need to talk to the planner, it'll be one of those. I mean,
Yeah.
we can bring in, again, all the samples that we had. I mean, we've had samples from all kinds of towns.
Okay, so it
on that.
there wouldn't be a cross-feeding of information necessarily.
No, because they don't, it shouldn't have specifics in it. It's a navigation.
All right.
It's a map. It's
So
kind of a
whatever-
navigation.
Whatever changes might be in the future for the land use ordinance,
That's a content thing.
right, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
This is just simply, how do I navigate my way through this morass? And what is it that I need to make sure that I
Every
look at?
one of those things, can I speak frankly, as a person who does this on a daily basis, means nothing. Don't waste your time.
Well, go back to the comp plan and tell them to take it out.
I'm telling you,
'Cause
don't
it's in
waste
the
your
comp
time,
plan.
because nobody reads it. They come in and they want to talk to a person. I'm just saying.
No, I agree with you on that point.
It absolutely is spinning your wheels, because there is not one person who comes in who wants to question, who has looked at the website or wants to go to the website or wants to go. They want to sit with Max and have him hold their hand and go through it. And that's the God's honest truth.
But they might want to leave with a piece of
Okay.
paper.
They may,
You are very charismatic.
but they don't.
not.
They don't.
And I agree with you on that point, but my point in bringing this up was, if it has to be done, if it's a requirement that
Then it has to be done, but I
then
wouldn't spend a whole lot of time on it.
who is better equipped to deal with it, who has
Max.
more time? Poor Max.
I'm sorry, but that has no place
And-
for,
And planning board was happy to take it over
It
for
has
the time
no
being if
place.
WBA or economic development hadn't.
Planning board.
WBA is not involved.
Okay, they're not involved.
No.
EDC
Yeah.
has TIF on its plate, among other things.
But it was
It
a
should be the
charge from
staff.
the comp plan.
It was
So
a charge
it is
staff.
it's written in the comp plan, so you need to change the comp plan as it's written.
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's,
So it has to be done, we could start
I've
it in
done
PD
this-
and move it to LUI.
I've seen these, and
Committee.
it doesn't make any, people want a person.
Yep.
Yeah.
They want a person, and you can make it as complicated or simple. I would keep it simple, because I'm just saying, I don't think it needs a committee. Just let Max do it and have a committee approve it if you have to do it that way. And I don't mean to sound, but it's just, it's the truth.
Hey, you can draw a map.
So what about just a diagram
It's
showing the
map.
flow chart?
A flow chart is a great idea.
Because that's what
But
we've done
keep
in
it
other places I've lived. Have little simple.
Keep it simple.
This is where you have to go in order to get
Yeah.
to the end goal.
But
And-
I'm just telling you, to
if
get overcomplicated, it's just gonna get way overcomplicated.
Because I am that person who wants a person, not a piece of paper.
And everybody does, it's not just
So,
you.
all right, so, but once you have the person,
Yeah.
then that person gets done and you leave holding on to something, either your own notes or your handout.
I would prefer the bulk of the time be spent on what we're handing out versus the process.
If I might give my own 2 cents.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you all for the compliments here.
Vote of confidence.
Yeah, I certainly don't mind doing this and getting the planning board input and the EDC input. I think one benefit that might happen is just an idea for whoever the next planner might be. If something was to happen to me, I'm not saying,
Max, no, what are you saying?
You've been threatened?
yes.
It's about to be.
I I mean,
He was, I don't know, I was at a meeting yesterday that he told me to be at, that I was supposed to be at with him, and he never showed up. No.
that is its own complicated story. But I'm saying if something was to happen, like, I don't know, I have some family emergency and I'm gone for so long, or you need a temporary planner.
You didn't make it back from Ireland.
I didn't make it back from Ireland, and it's just so good there. But this is an area that I'm not here, and you need someone else who might need that sort of roadmap. Maybe.
Well,
Like,
I
there's
actually-
probably
no,
more
no.
experience.
Do you know that we've never had, whenever we've had any turnover,
There's never had
There's
anybody.
no record, no roadmap, no nothing. Everybody comes in and has to create their own, and that's why we were
and
trying
that's,
to.
and that's
But I think that's internal.
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm saying even if this is you're saying committee shouldn't spend too much time on that, I somewhat agree. I just want EDC to get some input, planning board to get some input, and
But
then
that was the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's just it, because I would like that little roadmap for the next, if there's another.
It's
My
Planners
point
in 2
was,
years.
though, nobody's gonna know what we deal with. It's great for everybody to sit up here
Yep.
on all these committees. How many of you have actually went through the process? And therein lies the difficulty.
Quite a
I
bit.
haven't tried to do
This
any
flow
additions
chart.
to my house yet,
this
so.
thing.
But, right, but that might be, you might be a good person to say, hey,
But this is about business.
Dan.
This is supposed to focus on business.
Well, there
Well,
was
no,
pieces
they were-
of
no,
it that
the-
was, I
the
remember those
planning board was
elements.
talking about the,
Right, they could,
Shoreline
right.
and permits and all that stuff.
Our
and that's its own
charge
thing.
under economic
then I
development.
misunderstood
Our
two
charge
of the
under,
different ones.
right, we had a charge under economic development in the comp plan specific to business.
Okay,
Okay.
so,
That was our charge.
because I was thinking they were talking about ordinances as far as homeowners come in.
No, no, absolutely not.
No.
No, we weren't
That's-
getting involved
Okay,
in
I thought
any of
that's what
that.
we were talking about.
No.
I can't remember everything that was in this, because you know me, it's like brain bleach every day. Goldfish,
bleach.
sweat. I'm
swear.
swimming
That's good.
around.
I'm with you
It's a new
today.
day every
I'm with
day,
you this
okay?
week.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
man, but, sorry, hi, audience member. But I'm just saying, like, I can't remember what specifically was in this document, and so many people do start a
And
home
who-
business here, you know?
True, but who
There you
did?
go.
And they
who wrote
never
that
come in
document?
for approval.
Where did that document come from? Was that a Max document?
I've got it
Which-
in my email.
The
I'll
one
have to
she
find
said
it.
is the document you guys were looking at and referring
Yeah,
to.
that was one that when we were, the EDC was charged with making this little booklet or whatever, I made this rough draft months ago, I think,
Which we never looked at.
that you never looked at. And
Never got on the agenda.
and for the planning board, we were talking about the shoreland ordinance,
Yeah.
and
So we have to separate. So for purposes of businesses need their map and then, or at least 2 sections.
But we
whatever.
intersect on home businesses and we intersect on anything, you know, shoreland related.
shoreland
and-
ordinances is where
Right,
it
but
kinda
that's,
intersects.
we're not, all I'm saying.
But it's like, welcome to Waldeboro. What do you want to do here? Because you might need to talk to somebody.
Well, you have to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
You can't do anything without talking to somebody.
Then
You
what-
can't.
I have a lot of experience in that area from 12 years ago, starting.
What did I do?
Yes, we've heard about
You didn't do anything.
specifically manure pile. I mean,
Why'd you
everything.
pick that one?
Well, I just remember, not to call anyone out, but there were some really interesting discussions that arose around impact of manure piles in North Waldeboro. So, you know,
Well, I have
We get 'em
little
everywhere.
pile that I distribute every year that's
We got them
for
everywhere.
5 horses.
Yep.
And it's 1,000 feet
feel this
from
is
the
gonna be its
river,
own-
and there's no flow to the river.
Anyways,
Is there anything else?
nope. So it's just on our radar and Max, if you,
I'll distribute that.
yeah.
They want to pick on me because it's right there on the road.
So is
It's a near
actually,
culvert.
actually every year, everybody knows about this, every year, I won't mention names, but down on Route 32, there's always a great big pile of manure there for anyone to take. It's all mixed up with hay and all that kind of stuff. And everybody knows that they can go down and have manure picked up from
I
there.
think the concern with manure was, And, well, no, it's just because, I'm gonna go at noon.
One pager.
I'm gonna go at noon and I'm gonna read the test results yesterday from the Madomic.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent.
I think the concern with the manure and with the septic systems is that where some of this contamination is coming from? Because I will be honest with you, there's hot spots in that river that,
Oh, yeah.
and that could be what it is. And I think it was a legitimate concern
Sure.
from the people who make their living off the river. And I mean, that's one of the things we have to be, I think we can be an agricultural and a clamming town with no problem. We just needed a little guidance. I know that was a bit of a bone of contention that, we held that off for the vote, but, it was also going to, if we voted it in November, Eileen brought to the table that it was about $2,700 additional cost
For.
Just to have it on the ballot.
just to have it on the ballot.
Oh.
Because it would have been the only item.
It would have been the only item. So it was better to wait till June economically, and then it gives them time to come up with their best practices.
Okay.
I
So,
was listening to television the other day, and they were talking about the potency of various forms of manure.
Yep.
And canine appears to be damn near disastrous.
well, we will
The worst.
know, today, we had, yesterday, at the MVLT park, which I've been told I can't call a dog park anymore, but, although apparently that's what it is.
What?
There is a park behind Bear Hill, I don't know the name of it, but.
It was donated to us.
Yes.
Yep.
But apparently, there's, it doesn't matter. But
Behind
people are allowed to take their dogs there, and it's tested hot, that
Oh.
specific site for the last 3 times.
Uh-oh.
So,
Yeah,
E. coli?
yeah.
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 Okay,
So,
that's a
so if it tests hot today, I think what we're gonna do is then we're gonna take that sample and, we're gonna run more samples, and we're gonna take that to New Hampshire and actually have the DNA done on it, because we do have money to do that, but.
So know if it's dog or not dog?
You'll know, yeah,
Or
the
geese.
DNA. Yeah. I mean, and that's, like, we found beavers,
Oh, beavers.
beavers
Yeah.
are bad, poor little
Beavers.
things. But we, Glenn, Melvin,
Damn them.
myself, and, Bill, Will Pratt took the kayaks from Route 1 Bridge up.
Okay.
We got to the power lines, there's a huge beaver dam.
Wow.
So that's been resolved.
What does resolve mean if you're a beaver dam?
That means that the beavers went
Depends if
away.
you want to know what happened to the beavers.
The beavers went away.
Oh.
There's a
They were
winter-
lovingly rehomed?
They went to a nice farm up north.
They're in a
there's
sanctuary on an
There's a
island.
beaver dam right below the bridge at where the old Augusta Road crosses. There's
Yes.
a beaver dam right there.
We know
Right
there's,
there on the Madomic.
there are a lot of beaver dams. So they'll be
Been there for
remediated.
years.
And then we have, so we tested there, and that was interesting testing, is that, right by the dam was very high concentration. It does tend to wash out as it gets further down, but, so we're on.
So we gotta pick between beavers and clams?
Well, you gotta pick between what are the sources. We need to figure out what the sources are, because you're gonna have to, we're gonna have to eventually look at where are all of these coming from. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, the reason we went up the river was because we were told people were camping by the river. Well, there was no sign of where everybody was, that there'd been a camp there in years. So those hot tests probably were from the beaver. So you got to look at it like that, because everybody's anecdotal, but the best way to do it.
Right.
And now that we have the capability, so we sample now on our own. We don't even pay for that now it's not DMR, and we're not having to pay for it, because now Glenn and Abden take the samples, and then I run them at the DRA, because we partnered with the DRA to use their lab. So then I went and got certified to be able to do the testing. So now, when we want to decide to actually go up all the tributaries, so we took 8 samples yesterday up tributaries to the river to see if that's where the hot spots are coming from. So then I take those, I ran them yesterday, and then I get to read them at noon today. So that's like a pretty cool
Good
thing.
deal.
So those tests would have been $2,200.
But, and these tests do or don't determine whether it's from
Those
a
tests just
beaver?
say if it's hot or not.
Hot meaning some E. coli?
Yeah, and you'll get
non-specific.
and we get a number to put with that.
Right.
And then
doesn't-
if it's hot, then we can sample again, and then that test would go to New Hampshire.
And that's where you determine if it came from a person.
Right, because that's the only lab that can do that. So then
Wow.
Glenn has to drive it
Is-
to New Hampshire.
Is that valuable for diagnostic purposes or because clams care where the E. coli came from?
Clams could care less. It's diagnostic. It's strictly for us to figure out, hey, how
did this probably get here?
How did this get here?
And what can we
should we
do?
be looking
What
for?
can-
Should we be looking for a septic system? Should we
Failed
be
septic
looking
system
for
or-
a
Right.
bird that we're not
Right.
gonna be able to find because that's just birds? Is it beavers? Is it dogs?
Yeah.
So-
Dogs are different than
How about
beavers?
cattle?
Or cattle, yeah, they can tell. And honestly, what we thought was cattle, a couple of times cows, it wasn't.
Not surprising.
It wasn't. And actually, they are the least offensive of the group.
What about turkeys?
Well, all birds are bad.
Turkeys.
Birds are bad.
20 new ones.
I don't
in
know.
my
I think
property.
birds are pretty delicious.
No, they're bad. But it's an interesting, check out our new page, the Madomic Project on Facebook. I invited you to join last night.
Oh, good, okay.
Because that's part of our grant.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's telling you what we're doing on the Madomic, and you'll see more of that.
Oh, that'll be great.
It really is. We just linked
Yep.
it to, we just put a special tab on our website, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to tell you, as far as something to
Yeah.
really sink your teeth into, I mean, that's, as far as economic development goes, that river is our economic development right now, so we
Mm-hmm. Right.
really need to,
Right now.
Is anybody raising any number of pigs?
not that we're aware of. We did do sampling though, because the person over here started a farm off that creek that when you go down Jefferson Street towards Friendship, you get right past Abden's, there's that culvert that goes
Oh, yes.
under Jefferson Street.
Yep.
Up the hill from there, somebody just started a farm, so we tested that. We had the Department of Agriculture come out because we thought maybe that's what was going on. So we're looking at that.
Were you able to see the map with all the farms that hit the shore? Okay,
So the
that was
question,
so interesting.
I have a question about that. How far away, how are you defining how far you're going from an active stream during the most active time of year? How far away are you considering?
We go above the source that we think it is and below the source.
How far?
You mean up and down the river?
Well, so like yesterday, if we think I'll give you an example of the dog park. We sampled, I'm gonna say probably 250 feet above, and then 250 feet below. But sometimes you don't have that because sometimes these streams come in too quick, so we do an above and a below. But same thing with the beaver dam, it was about 250 feet above, 250 feet below. They give you some guidelines, but sometimes you just can't because, when we're sampling out in the river, you're gonna have runoff areas, streams, you might have them less than 250 feet apart, so you just gotta do above and below and
So if you go 1,000 feet away from an active stream that feeds the Madomic, okay?
your dilution solution,
Precisely. Mostly gone.
mostly gone.
So why are people picking on me?
I didn't know they were.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was just because that really opened up that whole discussion at Shoreland. No one's picking
I'm
on
not
you.
on the shoreline.
No,
I'm
it was
270
the,
feet above sea level and 1,000 feet from the river.
it was the manure. It was such a good discussion.
I thought the
If I
manure.
wasn't there to defend myself, it wasn't a good discussion because I've been through this in Massachusetts.
was a
I've been through it in
fantastic,
California
advocate.
with horses, and I've been through it
Yes, to me.
in
We're done.
Vermont, all three. And I wasn't there.
So we're technically done with our meeting. Max,
I wanted to ask Julie a question.
oh,
Hi, Carl Solberg, and I'm mostly here to apologize to John because wanted to follow up on the work you all been doing about broadband and Spectrum and LCI. But I did want to mention that my background is a former Agricultural Nutrient Management Commissioner for the state of Delaware.
Oh,
Cool.
You wanna
Interesting.
hear that? Finally, you're talking about something I know.
Sounds like BS to me.
What parameters are you monitoring when they test at the DRA?
just E. coli, that's
That's all.
all. That is it. We're using IDEX Coal Alert.
Okay.
It's great. I mean, it's only giving us, that's what the one thing that the clams are, the clam flats are concerned about. But we can't afford to test for, all the various things.
Yeah, certainly.
But it's fun.
Would there be diagnostic value to testing for more things?
Well, there are other markers, but if you're going to take that next step, when you
Yeah.
find, a certain-
We take the next step. We just don't have the capability. Now, when MVLT merges with Mid-Coast Conservancy, they have a water quality person there. We're going to have a conversation with them because they might have their own lab. I don't know.
And the state doesn't provide any support for?
DMR does testing religiously of the river.
Yeah, but they do it of the commodity
Yeah.
value, not the source. They're not helping you beyond head of tide.
Well, they are with a $22,000 grant. So, I mean, there are grant, but we're not using the grant funding for, well, actually, I shouldn't say that. Storm testing, we did one storm testing through a grant, which is an EPA non-point source pollution grant. And we're doing a watershed-based plan. But our testing is strictly paid for by the Shellfish Committee. And that's who
our
funded
guys.
it.
Very good.
And that's what we're doing, and then anything beyond that. So now this testing for the DNA, if we go that route, that's a $5,000 C grant that we have with MVLT, our Madomic Valley Land Trust, that will pay for that testing.
Yes, I was aware of that one. Well, that's very good. There are other indicators. You can use Enterococcus, which is just any mammalian source. That's a more sensitive test
Yeah.
than E. coli. But on the other hand, your real ultimate metric is what happens to a clam flat. So it's E.
Well,
coli.
right, our issue is where do we need to test?
Right.
And that's, with this, the last round, we were able to take out obviously these two sources are not a problem because they were low.
Right.
There was just regular,
Do you know if the state's 305B report has identified water quality limited segments in the Madomic Valley watershed?
don't know.
Well, I can research that for you.
Sure.
Find out if.
That'd be great.
Squirreled away in some regulatory body, a DEP or otherwise, there's a body of information that's useful because that biennial report.
Well, people always ask us, what do they test the clam flats for? And it's bacterial. It's
Right,
it's
that's
not
right, yeah.
it's not
It's not gonna be phosphorus and nitrogen and.
it's not. Everybody thinks that we have that, and we really don't.
Right. Well, I'll look into that one thing.
But we are
Yeah.
traipsing around
That's
through
great.
streams
That's what
and
it takes.
small things and
And by
trying to figure it out.
being locally involved, they're definitely, Clam Committee is moving much faster than the state does.
Right.
They're short of funds, and they just don't get around fast enough to be economically viable.
And I should just point out that our Shellfish Committee is purely funded by the clammers themselves. It's all money raised from their licensing, so there's no taxpayer funds going into that. The only thing it's costing is a little bit of my time. So yesterday it was 2 hours spent in the lab running the tests in
You're all very proud of that fact.
20 minutes. I will tell you, it's a pretty good committee.
Do
It's
we-
basically 2 people that do all the work, now 3 with Will, but
Do we monitor the nutrient runoff into the river?
no.
The people who do that would be your state water quality program at DEP. They're the only people charged with that kind of duty. It's a big state.
DEP versus DMR.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we know when Abden's
Hey,
processing
so, Carl?
business is gonna open?
Did you missed the part of the discussion that I wanted to give to you, so I can go outside and we can talk about it if you'd like.
I would like to do that.
Yep.
And I'll let you know what I gleaned from the state water quality program through their biennial report. And